Right. Well, hello, guys. Welcome again to yet another episode of Nevik Zoom meeting. It's May, and it means May brings good things. Not only do we get Mayflowers, but we get May shows. And that's really what we're really thinking about, right? Right. So, so in that vein, I have a couple of announcements. One is should be completely not surprising to anybody, but I will share nonetheless. Is Well, we have two heavy hitters for the month. So we got Kutztown next weekend. So anybody who belongs to our radio club knows about Kutztown. So looking forward to seeing the pictures and hearing any stories from people like Bob Bennett, who is not attending right now, but maybe he's got more important things to do, like getting ready for Kutztown. And of course, the show of shows, our Spring Brookline event on the 17th from 7:30 to 12 p.m. Tables are moving along, but there's still tables available. So there's still some time. There's only, a couple of, we're, getting just over about a week and a half away, but it's still time to get tables. And there is a training and there's a radio contest. So there is a training on soldering. So Jim Boldesac will be doing a training, but it'll be hands-on. So bring your soldering irons and your solder and your other devices to hold pieces together to improve your soldering skills. So Jim will be
Is
doing that after the event.
is he going to be using one of those gadgets like Tom and I were playing
Oh,
with at the last
well,
meet?
I think that deserves its own demo. You know, so maybe Tom could bring that. You have like a gunfight, a solder gunfight at the OK Corral. Um,
A
but
solder off.
a solder off.
See who can lay down the longest trace in the shortest amount of
Exactly.
time.
And when you're done, you have to blow at the tip of your soldering gun, like a proper soldering gun slinger would do. Uh, But and then there are two radio contests that Paul Rochelot will be running, and one will be for Montgomery Ward airline radios, of which there is a gamut of them, and that should be very. I expect that'll be a really good category with a lot of items. And then there's one called Gen X Vintage Electronics. So from the years 65 through 1980 brings something interesting there during that period. So it's really a open-ended but time-constrained um, contest. And so that should bring some interesting entries as well. And so that's sort of the I think the announcements in terms of events. Um, I have one other announcement. Oh, wait, actually, hold on. I forgot one other event. The second Flea at MIT swap meet is on May 18th. So if you didn't get enough on May 17th at our Spring Brookline, you have another day to go to Cambridge and buy more stuff. So if you have any money left over, we are counting on you to have spent all your money at Spring Brookline. But if you somehow did manage not to find what you're looking for, or you have a lot of money burning a hole in your pocket, then make sure you go to both. But that's at the usual 9 a.m. to 2 p.m. And if we're lucky, we'll find Tom sleeping in his Chevrolet somewhere nearby. Let's see here. So those are the events I can think of here. Um, One other announcement. Um, Bill Babbitt, who is a longtime member but only a recent entry to Groups IO in the past few months, um, has asked me to share with anybody. He has that well-known Crosley book. We've been having a thread on Crosley recently. In fact, I still have to look at the posting you gave Noah. I haven't had time. I've been so busy. But also look at the video, which I started looking at on that very rare Crosley uh, console. But anyway, he has the Crosley book in pristine condition, and he's happy to share it, give it to anybody who would like to read it, and maybe they would pass on to another member after they're done. Um, and um, I would be happy to give, if anyone is interested, to put Bill's, he said you're welcome to email him or contact him over his mobile or text him. I can give you that information if anyone's interested, and I can throw it in the chat window. And in fact, I will do that now so that if anyone's interested, well, one of two things. If you're going to be at the show, he's planning to go, and that's one of the first events he's gone to in a long time, or if ever. And so he could deliver, or he will mail it. So that is what I wanted to share. And that's very generous of Bill, really good guy. And he said the book's in terrific condition, so I have no reason to believe that it will be nothing but. So I'm going to add the, I've already put his email address in there. Let me put his number in there. One moment, guys. Whoops, wrong thing. And put that in there. And at any rate, there's his number, so you can up. Hey, we got Carl joining. I knew we'd have a late one, but another guy joining here. Um, so I put that in. So if anyone's interested, just reach out to Bill. And it's supposed to be the book on Crosley, their radios, their cars, all about Crosley, and they were pretty impressive brothers. Before I turn this over to Bob, does anyone have any other announcements in terms of events or other things that I haven't covered that we should be aware of? Um, Whether it's ham related or whatnot, just so that we make sure everybody's aware of things going about in New England or in the general region. Okay. I'm gonna say that's a resounding no. Uh, Bob, I'm gonna turn it over to you if you have anything you'd like to add to that, and if you don't, you can sort of jump right in if you want with your topic.
Well, yeah, well, I'll just if you'll enable screen sharing, I'll
Oh, sure. Tell me that would really help. That wouldn't that. Sorry about that.
one picture I want to ask advice on. But first of all, thanks for promoting the show. That was actually what I was planning to announce. But just it's a good show. We've got lots of activities planned. The training and the contests and the tables are selling well. So I'm sure it'll be excellent weather. I'd like to say hi to Tom. I saw Tom last Friday at NEAR-Fest. It looks like he's gotten some rest, so that's good. I know he spent the night in his van and enjoyed it.
I wish it was a van. It's actually a Tahoe and it's a little tight.
Well, there's always an opportunity, you can get one of those biggie vans and an RV. You'd look good in an RV.
Oh, that'd be heaven. Heaven.
All right. So
It won't fit in the MIT garage. That's the problem.
Yeah.
that's a tough problem. All right. Well, I don't have a good solution for that. But I do have a question. I'm gonna share I've got one picture and just a quick question. And if I can share my screen,
Yes, you should be good to go, Bob.
can you see that?
It's
Coming
painting,
up.
so there we
Yeah.
go.
It's a crack. Yeah. Okay. So this is a friend of mine gave me a radio. It was her father's. She remembers listening to baseball games, probably the Red Sox. So there's a crack, and I was just looking for thoughts on how to repair it. I kind of pulled it apart here for the picture. When you push the two sides together, it's not really visible. So here's my question. I was reluctant to put glue in the crack. I'm concerned that when I push the sides together and hold them until the glue dries, the glue will seep out on the top, or if I wipe it off right away, it will smear the top. And since it's on the top of the radio, it's very visible. So I was planning to, instead of doing that, reinforce it on the back, use some reinforcement. I think in the past I've used sheet aluminum and Bondo. But I was wondering if anybody has any other suggestions on doing the repair. It's brown bakelite. I'm not looking to make it museum quality, but just to have it serviceable. And as I said, when I push the crack together, you can't really see it very well. I've been working on the radio. It seems to work well. It's a RCA 56X, 6 tubes. It's in pretty nice condition other than the crack. So any thoughts or suggestions would be appreciated.
Is there any paint in those grooves, or is that just dust?
It's dust. I looked at a lot of pictures of these radios, and those grooves are all brown. I did see one where the grooves were painted gold.
Mhm.
All the pictures I've seen, they're actually brown.
Yeah, well, the reason I ask is because what I've done in the past is to use, a good 24-hour epoxy and, put it in the crack and squeeze it closed. And then if you wipe down the top with acetone, that won't disturb the bakelite, but it will let you wipe off any epoxy that squeezes out.
So you see, well, let me make sure I understand. You're saying if I used, like JB Weld epoxy?
Well, I wouldn't use a filled epoxy. I'd use, one of the clearer ones. So I get DevTime 24-hour cure epoxy.
And you mean a slow cure? Is that
Yeah,
what
slow cure. Yeah.
And so you're saying if I
And
put that in the crack and wipe it off right away with acetone, it won't
yeah, from the top. Yeah, you can.
it
You can.
won't ruin the bakelite?
No, the acetone won't touch the bakelite. If there was any paint, it'll take that off. But the other option is to go in, close it up, and go in from the back with thin super glue.
Yeah,
and wick it in from the back.
I had thought about something like that, using super glue or epoxy on the back.
Yeah, and then if you use the super glue, I'd reinforce it with your plans with epoxy or something.
Yeah.
Some cotton gauze would do.
Thank you.
And then once you have it like that, where it's spread open, then put it in, like he said, and I would leave it standing on its side like that, and put a weight on the side of it to hold it together. Put some heavy books or something on top of it to hold the crack together once you have the glue in there.
Right. That makes sense.
Don't forget duct tape.
Yeah, I had thought about weighting it down or using bungee cord to hold it together.
Yeah.
Wasn't sure what. Yeah, but
yeah, bungee cord can work if you can get enough tension on it. You have to get really short ones that really tight, but weight probably would be perhaps more predictable. Like an Encyclopedia Britannica, a few of those off of there would be perfect for that.
I'd probably do it. Yeah. Well, super. Thank you all for your suggestions. I'll let you know what happens.
Yeah, well, to see the finished product.
All right. Yeah, thanks. I'm all set, John.
Oh, thank you, Bob. That was really that was very interesting. All right. Well, let's see here. Always have randomly pick somebody here. Hey, Russ, what's going on? I'll let you lead off. Well, actually, second after Bob.
Hi, John. Hi, everybody. Good to see everybody again.
Yeah, it did.
Yes, I've got a different computer. Maybe this time I can show what I wanted to show. So I'm going to try to share my screen.
Sure.
Let's see if that works. Looks like this. Okay. If everybody's able to see the Lafayette HE10.
There we go. Just showed up.
Okay, good. So since Carl is on, first again, thanks to Carl. He sent me a replacement for the band switch, which you can see was incorrect. And then also the BFO was also missing as well. Well, not missing, it had the wrong one there. So again, thanks for that. So one of the problems you can see here was not a trim ring here. And what I didn't know at the time was that the trim ring here was actually very thin, maybe brass or copper and plated with metal color, steel or whatever. Um, aluminum, I don't know. But anyways, I didn't know that. So I went ahead and made one. Only I don't know how to find the arrow to cheer. There it is. So unfortunately, I didn't have a smaller piece of aluminum kicking around, so I used this one,
Ah,
and that was the finished piece once I
wow.
was done. It was an awful lot of waste, but that's
Yeah.
kind of what I had. And then after comparing that to the one that was still present, I realized that things weren't going to match, and the other one was pretty badly deteriorated. So I ended up just making another one, and there's the knob when it was
Wow.
all done.
That looks terrific.
Yeah.
Thanks. Another problem. There's a few other things, but you can see the bushings had deteriorated here for the tuning condenser, and what somebody had done was they cut some plastic square pieces out of something, and they kind of stuck them in there and screwed it down. And unfortunately, I don't have a picture of this, but unfortunately, that actually meant that the shaft of the tuning condenser did not fit the hole, so they fixed that by grinding it out a little bit bigger.
Uh,
Um, yeah, but it doesn't show too much. So I ended up, I got some grommets, and then I 3D printed a piece to fit down through the grommets, and then tie things down to the chassis so that it, can flex a little bit. So that took care of that, and then the here it is here, and um, I found two different Lafayette catalogs, and it seems like at first they came with the HE11, which was a larger speaker. But I found in the later catalogs they were sold with this one here, which is a 48. It's
oh,
smaller. It actually fit the little bit of space I had available, so I picked that up, and no, it's working quite well. And you can
nice.
see the new knobs on there again. That's it.
I see it powered up.
Yes, yeah, it's working well in all bands. And it's been pushed aside for my latest acquisition at NEAR-Fest, which I know Tom's going to show you some pictures of that.
Oh, good.
And um, this came home with me from NEAR-Fest.
Oh, a Collins. Oh, Gary would be jealous.
Sweet.
Yeah, so there it is. It was always on my bucket list, and I've got one now.
Nice. Looks to be a nice, at least cosmetic condition. It looks to be in pretty nice shape there.
Yeah, it's in very nice shape overall. When I bought it, was told that it doesn't work, and that's okay. It's actually I've got it working on a bunch of the bands now, so whatever we're on, we'll get it squared away.
Oh, wow.
That's about it. The only thing I could do is I could show a couple of quick pictures of NEAR-Fest. I didn't take
Sure.
anywhere near as many as Tom, though.
Go ahead. You got the floor.
All right, so I got to stop this, and
By the way, that picture, the Lafayette that you purchased at the Nebby show, actually, I shared a photo of it before you became you as the new owner. So it was in my
oh, okay.
photo set as well. I said, I know who owns that one.
Yeah, it's an interesting radio. I had not seen one like that before. Let's see if we can do this. Did I share again or not? I'm not sure.
No, you unshared. You have to just reshare.
Okay, I see. Let's check this in. All right. No, I can't seem to get back to Zoom here. Let's see.
Take your time.
Well, I don't want to throw everybody off here.
That's no problem.
Let me click that. Okay, here we go.
There it is.
Okay, there we go. So this, Tom and I were actually looking at this. It's 75A1, and Tom will have to help me with the model number of the transmitter because I kind of know that.
32V1. And look at that. That's Tom's hat in back of that
It
radio. I
is.
think I had my nose in the back of that radio.
Yep, you were busy looking at the
Oh,
connections in the back at
I
that
see. That's the
point.
top of your head.
That's
Yes.
it.
Very good.
That's his
And there's
thinking cap.
There he
a
is.
better picture of the top of his head, in case you needed that. And then the transmitter. This was
Were
a
you re-ohming that unit at the time, or what were you?
Hey, yeah, Russ
was-
bought it anyway.
I was sniffing it. You
Yeah.
got to sniff a radio, you know. Don't just look at whether there's dust and dirt in there. You got to sniff it.
That's nothing
And there
like
was
the
actually
smell of an old
plenty of
digital electronics.
plenty of dirt and dust in there, as I remember. So still NEAR-Fest. This is a messenger. I'm probably pronouncing it wrong. Analyst. It's kind of like a a rider channelist or RCA channelist with the 4 eye tubes and all the different functions for testing radios back in the day.
Wow.
Sweet. What is the consensus on it? I always said Meissner, but I have no idea.
Yeah, I think it's Meissner.
I would go with that. Yeah.
It's true. If it's spelled Meissner, yeah, it's Meissner. That would be a good German name.
2 S's, I think.
Yeah, they might have still. Yeah, I still claim, with Americanizations, probably an extra S.
There you go.
Yeah,
two S's.
it's Meissner. In fact, actually, yeah, that's probably assuredly.
Yeah, I had a Meissner signal shifter VFO as a kid, and they made some good stuff.
Some Heath kits sitting next to it.
Yeah.
And the face of that Meissner looked really nice, but you can actually see in this picture it wasn't looking as great as that picture maybe made it look.
Did Tom smell it?
That I don't know. I was no longer with Tom at that point. It's a really nice looking National.
Yeah,
I know. I talked to the gentleman later. I know it didn't sell, but it is a nice looking radio.
Mm.
And he also had this for sale. It was the 75 that came home with me.
Nice.
And, this
Bargain
was
price on that.
Yeah, and actually he came down a lot, so it worked out pretty well for me. This is a Harvey Wells.
Harvey was going to say, wow, I've never seen one of those before.
I thought about that.
Very popular set because it was a transmitter and it transmits on a lot of ham bands, including the 2-meter band, which is really weird because it has a big 807 final.
Oh, okay. I have to say I did look at that and thought about bringing it home, but it didn't. And that was it for me for NEAR-Fest. Said Tom will no doubt have a lot more.
Nice. Well, thank you, Russ. That looks like the weather at least held. It looked like it was a well-attended show.
It was kind of rainy.
It was rain.
Oh, is that right? I guess you got a break. So it doesn't look like it's raining at that point, but maybe the pictures were being a little.
There were breaks at times, but a lot of people weren't putting their things out just because of the rain, and I think later they did. Tom would know that. So I left sometime after 10 to get to another commitment. But anyways,
Yeah, I bailed on going up on Friday because of the rain. I was kind of tired. I was looking at the weather forecast, and it just didn't seem worth it.
Oh, that's too bad.
It was a really, really good turnout, Steve. There were a lot of people there despite the rain because the forecast said it's going to stop raining at 10 o'clock in the morning. And it stopped raining at 10 o'clock in the morning, but it started again at 10:30.
Oh, man.
Very annoying.
That's funny.
Maybe the fall.
Well, maybe for continuity, since we're on the topic, why don't I hand off to Tom, who can sort of add more to the NEAR-Fest event?
Okay, you are looking at the one and only Mr. Mike. Mike um, uh, single-handedly rescued the old Deerfield Hamfest, and they were going down, and he got it started again, ran it for a number of years, and then ran into trouble with the Deerfield Township. They didn't like a ham radio event because it was Friday and Saturday. They wanted to rent the fairgrounds for Saturday and Sunday, and there were other issues. So finally, he moved it to a place that really, really difficult to find. You have to listen to your GPS constantly to know exactly where to turn once you get off Interstate 89 or 91. Very tough, but once you get there, there's a lot of people there. So this is Mr. Mike. He's um, a badge collector, and somehow he's come up with a Border Patrol badge. So I'm not sure he was supposed to have that, but anyway, he's an amazing guy, and him radio owes him a great deal for having done this, and he's put a great deal of effort into making the fest available to kids and bringing kids in. He has prizes for kids that show up and gives them all sorts of encouragement to get into ham radio. Over his right ear, you will see the infamous Tom's
Yeah.
Tahoe with a blue tent against the rain that turned out the tent leaked.
Oh
but
no.
but my Enigmas didn't get too badly hurt. And over his, let's see, left ear, you'll see the famous fire truck. And this is a very early shot, but at about 7 o'clock in the morning, they undo that ladder that you see all the way out, and they stick it straight up in the air with an antenna on top. And it is just the greatest radio station you could imagine, just quite unique. Let's see what the problem is I have 163 pictures, so I'm not going to drag you through all of them. I'll just zip through the ones that might be of interest to folks. And we'll stop at just a few of them. There's the radio, and as you can see, I was poking around in back, and I found that little connector over there. Clearly had been added. The Collins of that vintage only had screw terminals, and somebody added a coaxial fitting to it. So that's the 75A1 Collins receiver. And this is the 32V1 Collins transmitter. And you can see where someone added a type N connector in place of the terminal strip there. Collins radios have a long history with Tom. My first radio was like the one on top. And my father had a lot of money, so I just said, Daddy, I want a radio. I said, oh, sure, go ahead, kid. Daddy, I want a Collins radio. He didn't know what that was, so he said, go ahead, buy it. And the most expensive radio you could ever imagine in ham radio at that time. Then I said, Daddy, I want a radio transmitter. I just got my novice license. And I went down to Mr. Harrison in Radio Row. And I said, Mr. Harrison, I want that 32V1 transmitter by Collins. He said, sorry, kid, can't sell it to you. I said, what do you mean? I mean, I got the money. And he said, no, if I sell you a transmitter, you're going to end up being an appliance operator for the rest of your life, and you're not going to know diddly about radio. You got to build your first transmitter. And so he passed up a really big sale in order to educate me and did me the greatest favor anybody I think could ever have done. It sounded real mean at the time, but sure enough, I built a 6L6 transmitter myself and learned about that, and then just started building transmitters from then on. Really nice of them to do that. So that's the history I have with Collins. One other story about Collins, the radio up top, the 75A1, fancy receiver, very nice. And I bought it, I put it in my apartment building in New York City, and I put up an antenna. I couldn't hear anything, not anything but WABC AM. It absolutely blanked every band and every station in the Collins. I mean, it was just hopeless. And so I wrote a letter to Mr. Collins, a little kid here writing this letter. And he wrote back to me, I'm really sorry that you're having trouble with this radio of mine. I'm going to send our service truck out to you. And he sent this service truck to my apartment in New York City. And the serviceman got out and he verified that the receiver was just being completely blanketed by WABC AM. And he went in, he got out a little coil, he started winding the coil, and he hung a capacitor across it. And he said, well, I'm making you a trap. And I said, what's a trap? He said, well, we're going to trap WABC so you won't be bothered by it. And he put that thing on the radio, and it just quieted down WABC. You couldn't hear it except where it was supposed to be. But can you imagine a company that makes radios taking the time to fix a kid's radio, and wasn't even the fault of the radio, really, although Mr. Collins really loved young hams, and he did a lot of things like that. I've heard a lot of stories, but that was really beyond the call of duty for a radio maker. A couple of other pictures of that. Bunch of tables. I'll just zip through a few tables. If you see something you want to know about Russ, or I can tell you about it. Nice old receivers. Whoops, we're back at the Collins. Couldn't get away from that. This is a real nice little Hallicrafter's Defiance, not the most common model of shortwave receiver by Hallicrafters, but it's a nice looking radio. Here's a inside final transmitter tube set up from a transmitter that a guy had out he was showing off. Another nice receiver. This is a field strength meter. The little light bulb lights up.
Oh, McMurdo.
Dial. Yeah, it's made by, what is it there?
McMurdo Silver.
Yeah, right, McMurdo Silver. And hams needed things like that because you didn't want to transmit outside the ham band. And you could tune that little dial, make sure your transmitter was in band. The light would light up when you hit the frequency you were transmitting on. And a nice little set, quite unusual. Here's a guy. He looked like he really wanted to talk, so I stopped off and I started talking to him. And he's 92 years old. He was in World War II. The little airplane on his jacket says that he was taken on the Freedom Flight, I think it is, where old World War II veterans are taken up to fly in an airplane again. And he was there all alone. He was selling this equipment, and he had just I could have sat there and listened to him all day long. It was wonderful. A great guy. More ham gear. These are early 1950s sets by Multi-Elmac. And I actually had the lower right one that you see there under the dashboard of my 1956 Dodge convertible. It was a little transmitter and took up a lot of space. Hard to have a girlfriend in the same seat with or the radio like that by her feet. And more radios, some Heathkit radios. We'll just zip through these guys now. John Cassell showed up. John Cassell is the current most knowledgeable historian of telegraph. And he was selling a lot of his collection. He really wants to get rid of a lot of equipment. So he put out just bins and bins full of old telegraph sounders. These are mostly relays. And he was selling them very, very cheaply. Lots and lots of them. And some very nice sets there. Nothing real old, but some nice sets if you want to just sort of relive the history of telegraph. Some interesting bugs. The one that you see on the right is a Vibraplex. The one on the left is also a Vibraplex with a strangely colored base. Here's a table of his bugs. A lot of people bought these bugs because he was selling them for about $100, and they were all quite old, I would say. Anywhere from between 1923 and 1950 or so. So you could pick up a nice old bug for about $100 from John. And he's been doing this at a number of shows. That's his pickup truck and some of the keys on the table and back of it. If you didn't bring a table, you used whatever was available. Here's a guy setting up. And this is the Harvey Wells transmitter. And the guy was selling both the Harvey Wells transmitter and the hard to find power supply for it for $50. And that was hard to turn down. That's a real piece of ham radio history. A very nice little transmitter that was used by many people. It's actually a crystal controlled transmitter, and you could occasionally get a VFO for it.
Looks like a neat
Just
area.
run through. Let's see. There's something that
Reel to
might
reel.
yeah. 30 bucks for that guy over there. A Fada.
Oh,
Looks to be
okay.
in pretty nice condition. This is a tape recorder that I
Yeah.
hadn't seen before, but it went for a lot of money. Somebody really wanted it badly. It's usually you can't give away tape recorders, but this one was quite popular. A lot of people looking at it. I don't know if I can actually see the brand. Maybe.
Yes.
Oops, what have I done now?
Whoops.
Ah. Who knows?
Zoomed into oblivion.
Yeah, sorry about that.
That's all right, Tom.
Okay.
It might have been a Revox. I can't really tell because I'm looking on my phone. But
Yeah. Let me see.
Kind of looks Sony-ish to me.
Yeah. Yeah, it did look
Looks to be-
Sony-ish.
Yeah, looks to be in terrific condition. You know, it looks like-
Stereo. That might be the first stereo portable that Sony came out with.
Maybe.
Where am I here? Hold on one moment. Let's
no
find
problem.
this guy. There it is. Okay. So it says clipboard file open.
By the way, when you bring that up, I just might add a shout out to Isaiah, who's been adding a lot of commentary through chat. So appreciate that, Isaiah. I've been seeing that, enjoying it.
Yeah. Okay. I'm almost there.
No problem.
Almost there we are. Okay, share that. Share that. There we are. Okay, again. And let me see if I can enlarge it. We should be able to see that. Yeah. Says it's 200%, but it isn't. Oh, there we go. Looks like a Sony to me. Let's go. Peek. Yeah.
Yeah, good call. There it is, right in the
Yeah.
center.
Yeah.
No baloney.
It's a pretty professional one. I'm not sure I recognize the model, but it's a, what does it say? Star recorder or something like that.
Or it says stereo recorder, maybe?
Oh, stereo. Yeah, okay.
Yeah, stereo.
I'll go for that.
Yeah.
Oh, blew it again.
So, Steve, you got it between early stereo and Sony. Yeah, good call. Yeah, that looks nice. And
Yeah, they used that same transport for a long, long time.
Yeah.
Same basic mechanics.
Yeah.
Stand by a minute.
Sure.
I gotta get back. Yeah, come on. Yeah. And we're almost there. Okay. Okay, here we go. Share screen. And I think we're going to see Russ's 75A4 if we're lucky. And he has a better picture of that, but it certainly was a deal. Was everything there and did it look okay inside, Russ? Maybe he's
Yes,
not.
it was definitely complete. It had the original manual with it as well, and also a receipt from someone who did some service work on it for the tune of $2,000.
Wow, that's a big
and
job.
Inside, it's just very clean. It's there's a little bit of very, very light dust that I cleaned out, but you'd hardly notice it. So yeah, it's looking pretty good.
But if I remember correctly, he said, but it didn't work, right?
Yes. However, I actually moved the filter over into slot B just because that's what the instructions said to do. And I tuned it up and I got 80 meters, 160 meters, Since then, I've been on 15 and 10. I'm not getting 20 and 40. So there's definitely life in it. And it's just a matter of me kind of chasing down those other bands that aren't working.
Yeah, if it's like that, it's probably just contacts on the band switch, maybe.
That's what I had hoped, and I took a look at them, and they look spotless. So I was very
Oh,
surprised to see that. I put some deoxit on it anyways and kind of worked it in. So far, no improvement on that, but I still have to wonder if it isn't the band switch after all. But I'll keep at it.
yeah. And let us know how you make out and what you do to get it flying again. Like we showed these pictures on the LICW club, which is a club with 5,000 members, and there's a group that specializes in boat anchors, and this is the classic boat anchor. Boat anchor is a big radio that probably could act as a boat anchor if you weren't using it as a radio. Um, I'll just run through a few of these. I think that's a real work of art, that Meissner's test set there.
Hmm.
I was tempted to take it home and frame it. I don't know what that would have been. How to lose a wife in a big hurry. This is a very, very high class
Ooh.
radio, digital Watkins Johnson. And for people who are really into high end receivers, this is a very juicy set. I didn't even ask the guy what the price was. They usually go for several $1,000s, even now. And here's a beautiful old Heathkit novice transmitter in beautiful condition. This is way many hams started out with a radio like that. Okay, just zip through. If anybody sees anything they want to know about, whoops, there's something John can tell
Yeah.
us about.
Oh,
I think,
that's a knockoff. That's they're
uh,
trying the classic that it looks the part. And they're cute to have, but they're made in the early 90s.
okay, how do they sound?
I've never heard one, but I've generally heard they sound pretty reasonable. I'm not sure if they sound better than the Grundig 960 that they're actually modeled after. I'd rather have the warm sound of a vacuum tube.
Wow. Okay. This is an old radio transmitter, some World War II military sets.
Oh yeah.
Somebody built a little paddle into a box. This is rather fun. In the time shortly after World War II, you could buy a radio like this with all the parts and everything on Cortlandt Street and Radio Row for maybe $2.
Hmm.
And then you take out all the guts and you start putting your own dial on it and build a transmitter in it. And that's what this guy has obviously done. And of course, the Dymo label maker makes it almost look professional, not quite. But if you didn't have a lot of money, that was a real neat way of getting a radio on the air in those days. And yeah, bunch of radios.
Hammerlands.
That's kind of fun. That's a Lafayette Explorer
Explorer.
Air, I think, and a nice looking radio, just for its age.
Hmm.
There's one or two. Oh, this is a very interesting radio. This is a National SW5,
Hmm.
and it's a radio I've never seen before. They're very unusual to find. And that's the little label in the middle there that you see says National on it, I believe.
Wow.
And here is yeah, there we go. It's a 1929
Wow.
SW5 in pretty good shape, I would say. The guy wanted $35 for it, which is a bargain if you're collecting this kind of thing. And in addition to thorough laboratory tests, this set has also been checked on actual reception from the following distant stations. Can you imagine selling a radio with a couple of stations that it has heard? what an amazing thing to see. That's just amazing. And what have we got there? HJO was one station that he copied, and something SW. another station that they copied. Jackson Research Laboratories, Malden, Massachusetts. So it made
Hey.
right up here in Massachusetts.
Yeah, local set.
Yeah, very, very neat receiver. I love these little labels. So this receiver is designed for best operation when used with RCA radiotrons. And don't you dare use any other kind of tube in it. Oh, what a neat set. I was really tempted. $35 for a true, true rare antique. It was hard to walk away from that one. And here's a guy with a ham radio amplifier that must have bad eyesight because he's got these big stickers that he put all over it to tell him what band he's operating on. Never seen anything like that. Let's see. Let's see what's that guy? That's a
Let's see.
can you see it?
Can't quite read it. It's Admiral battery.
Okay. Yeah.
There we go. Oh, that's how you don't see those too often. It's not in too bad a shape.
Yeah.
It's a decent shape and kind
Yeah.
of cool in their own way.
What has he got? 50 or $30 on that?
I think that's just $30. That's pretty reasonable.
Yeah, I think so.
That's, it looks mostly there. It looks about right.
Yeah. Yeah. Let's see if I can go on. Telegraph keys. These are J38 telegraph keys, World War II vintage. At the end of World War II, there were barrels of them in Radio Row. You could buy them for 25 cents a piece or 5 for $1.
Wow.
Now it's between 40 and $60. People think they're antiques, but it's really us who are the antiques, right, Per? Okay. Homemade antenna tuner, radios. I don't recognize that guy. Is that anything?
Let's see. Is that a Zenith or is that an RCA on the left? Zenith, I think.
Yeah. The interesting thing about that Zenith is it's post-war. It's got both the pre-war FM and the post-war FM band on it, as well as AM.
What was the difference between the bands?
Oh, the pre-war FM was 49 megahertz or there around.
Really?
Yeah, wow. And then starting off, got them to move it up to Screw Armstrong.
Oh, thank you, Steve. I didn't know that. That's amazing. They had twice as high a frequency for the post-war radios. Maybe that's because they did so much research during the war on FM that they figured that the higher frequency was a better fit for FM. More telegraph keys. John's telegraph keys. Zip through those. That's the Fada again. Anybody want to?
That is a pretty nice shape. Yeah, it looks like a pretty nice shape. $30. That looks like it's got a crack, I think.
Yeah, look at that crack. Talk about cracks on the top. I think people sit on these things. It's a nice warm seat, right?
Yeah, a little kid might.
Let's see.
Test equipment?
This is a super bargain. This is a very high power amplifier, Henry 2K, 1,000-watt amplifier for $300. They normally sell for about 1,000. So, but it's really, really heavy.
What are you doing?
Yeah. And the back view of it. These are World War I telegraph and telephone sets that date back to the trench warfare of World War I. Neat little telegraph keys inside along with the handset. And let's see what else we got.
The crafters.
This is rather interesting. This is a Collins R390 receiver, but usually they're gray. And this one is in a white color. And normally they sell for maybe $300. For some reason, he wants $1,000 for this one. Can't figure that one out. Any ideas on that one?
Well, I saw that. Just wondering about this. Desert
strange.
Storm, is this a relatively newer? How old is this set?
No, it's well, it's 19 whenever Desert Storm was, what,
Yeah, okay.
1970, 80, something like that. It's
Yeah,
just
So they
way
were
out of
obsolete by then.
way out of line for prices,
yeah.
and there's a better view of it. Yeah, it's just not that spectacular. It's just the cabinet, the color of the case.
Hmm.
Uh, what's that guy?
It's a
Uh,
Kenwood R2000,
Wait, this one right here?
the previous one.
oh, okay. This guy. Yeah. Uh, let's see. Audio, gone for big money, tube audio as usual.
Oh, sure.
Military sets as a transoceanic, I guess.
I think, is that the RCA version? It looks like.
No, I don't recognize that one.
Well, we have to, maybe you can zoom in there, Tom. That tag must say something.
Yeah.
Silvertone.
Silvertone. Ah, you don't see
Yeah.
that very often. Good. There we go.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they don't show up very often, but they do occasionally.
Huh. Are they any good?
I don't know. I don't know if anyone's had an experience with one.
Okay.
Nice to see though, just because it's, I mean, not that I have anything against TOs, just
Yeah.
I'd just see an alternate brand just for the variety purposes.
Yeah. Wonder if they infringed on the copy on the patent at all, because it looks there's certain features like the map that flips up there that look suspiciously.
Yeah, I think they all seem to do that.
Yeah.
Another Lafayette.
Yeah, this is a radio that I don't think I've ever seen before. This is and the one on the bottom here is an RME 70. And I don't think I've ever seen one. The inside is clean. It's got a service manual, but it's a radio that just never shows up. And again, the price was incredibly low.
And yet it didn't come home with you. Oh, there's Ross.
Yeah, couldn't
Scroll back to
miss
that TV2 tube tester there.
Yeah,
Which
I
model
don't,
is that?
I don't see a price. I think it's a military set.
Yeah.
And let me see if I can. Yeah,
Is that a 2A or 2B?
TV 2B, it
2B.
looks like.
2B, yeah, 2BU.
Oh, never heard of that company, J.H. Keeney Company. I guess a lot of people had government contracts that you never hear about.
And that's where the 2B or not 2B came from.
Yeah,
That is the question.
Russ was there. Bunch of military radios. This
That's
guy,
interesting. What is that?
is that a Silvertone also?
Admiral.
Admiral, that's really kind of interesting.
Yeah.
Power Magnavox, actually.
Oh, right, Magnavox, yeah.
Power transistor.
That's kind of power. That's kind of neat. Sort of a semi-portable. I mean, I don't know if it's how portable it is. Is that?
Yeah.
Does that flip up or something? So it's meant to be it says stereophonic, so
yeah.
Presumably, I'm going to guess.
Pretty sure I'm pretty sure it flips up, and yeah, you can tell that brown head shell kind of Magnavox look to it.
Yeah, and it's probably in the early mid-60s, I would suppose. And you have to really hoist that baby up because that's not going to be a lightweight to.
Yeah.
It's transportable.
This is the radio equipment inside the fire truck. It's that activated the antenna at the top of the mast.
Ham truck.
Cool. Yeah. So that's it. And I hope you enjoyed that.
Yeah.
I'll try and take pictures at the MIT meet, but the MIT meet really doesn't have much in the realm of radio gear anymore. The meet that I went to was mostly computer stuff, a few military sets, and of course some idiot with Enigma machines. He keeps showing up.
All right. That's funny. All right. Well, thank you, Tom. That was actually a lot of fun.
Good.
Steve, what's going on by you?
Well, not a heck of a lot. I'm a little setback in recovery from my knee surgery, so I haven't been down to the lab very much.
Did you have a new knee put in or what?
Yeah, I did, and things were going well, and I was like walking around great for a couple of weeks, and then started limping again. So
Oh,
Wow.
geez.
So
getting a second opinion next Thursday, so we'll see what happens.
Was it a total replacement or
Yeah.
wow. And you were up and walking in a couple of weeks
No, I was
in a brace.
no for about a month, maybe a month, 6 weeks recovery, and then I was walking freely and in good
Okay.
shape for a couple of weeks,
Okay.
and then it went south.
Got it.
But I guess the main thing I've been working on is this General Radio 783A power meter.
Huh.
Got a busted knob on it.
Yeah.
You can see it's missing some of the knob skirt.
Yep.
Much of the knob skirt. So I've been researching General Radio knobs.
So does that have a big power resistor inside it to dissipate the
It's got a
power?
big bank of them, and that's what this is. This is the airflow for it.
Oh, yeah.
And it's actually got a sheet of asbestos in it to isolate that from the rest of the electronics.
Do you have
And
the
it's,
manual for it?
Oh yeah, and it's got a
Great.
bunch of electronics, transformers that let you select the impedance. It's like the 583A output meter.
Oh,
So
cool.
it just goes up to 100 watts instead of 5 watts.
Can you show us the meter? Is it calibrated in watts? Oh, neat.
Wow. That is
Yeah.
cool.
Yeah,
It
so it's
looks like a logarithmic scale.
excuse me. Yeah, it's got a more slightly logarithmic power scale, and then somewhat more linear dB scale underneath it.
Okay.
Well, anyway, so I've been trying to figure out General Radio knobs, and you'd think, hey, they sold them in their catalog, right? So you'd think it would be one of their catalog knobs. Hold on, I just gotta get my number right here. Yeah. So, you'd think it was a KN series because they're the ones that introduced this little arrow pointer on the knobs. So I don't know. It's what you see on most of the gear, but actually, it's closest to the 637 series, which look like this. Whoops.
Whoops.
So they've got a skirt and they have a line on the pointer on the skirt is the pointer instead of the arrow.
Yeah.
Right. But otherwise, they're essentially the same knob. Right. So the 783s, for some reason, come with the 637 knob that's not in the catalog, that has an arrow that you can't find anywhere else. No other instrument used it. And if you go back, this is the one that came with the knob, with the unit. It's intact.
Yeah.
You can see it's smooth on the front here, right? But it's got the arrow.
Right.
Right. Well, so the first version of the 630, the 783s came with this knob. You can barely see it because it's not filled in, but there's a little arrow on the. There we go.
Yeah, there you go. Yep.
The arrow on the top, as well as the pointer.
Got it. Follows it.
Right, and the early ones actually had this arrow filled in with white. So the first production run came with this style of knob. all the rest of the production runs up until the very modern ones that switched over came with the this style without the arrow.
Mhm.
And the only one knob that's cataloged was actually obsolete before the 783 came out. So I did manage to dig up somebody that had this knob with the the early style with the
Great.
arrow on it, and I'm just gonna have to mate that with the one without the arrow and call it good enough.
Right.
How did you find somebody with something that obscure?
Indeed.
I asked on the General Radio Groups IO list, and there's like kind of everybody scratching their head. We don't know what you're talking about, Steve. So I asked on the Antique Radio Forum and put in one ad on there, and some guy, Pat Roach, actually came up with it.
Nice.
Actually, in a General Radio bag.
Cool.
Wow.
Yeah.
Not bad. Not bad at all.
Looks like you got one of everything General Radio ever made in back of you there.
No way. Close. I'd like to, but
That's
You
so
might be interested, Steve, about, I'm going to call it 30 years ago, I went to the Deerfield Ham Fest, and a guy had an oscilloscope in a wooden case. And
Oh,
I
yeah.
looked at it, and it had only the CRT and a power supply, no amps for the plates.
Yep.
And I bought the thing, and it turned out that was number one. That was before they licensed out the cathode ray tube to anybody else, and that they had the very first oscilloscope tube in that little thing. That was really neat to find.
Whatever happened to it?
Oh, I sold it, you know. You can only have so much stuff, although I shouldn't say that looking at your background there.
Well, you should go meet Volker Klock down
Yeah.
in Lee, Massachusetts.
Yeah.
He runs oscilloscopemuseum.org.
Oh, yeah.
You know him?
No, I don't think so, but I'm going to look at it. That sounds like fun.
He's got hundreds of oscilloscopes, including he finally managed to put together all the pieces of that first General Radio oscilloscope.
Oh, great, great.
So, it's got the New England French polished walnut case, right, for the tube, right, the power supply. And it's got the external amps, and then it's got the external Bedell sweep circuit.
Wonderful.
So I finally got all the pieces and got it together.
There was another guy around, Tom Wales or Tom something or other, who was very much into General Radio stuff. Did you know him, or do you know him?
No, I never met him.
Okay, he showed up at MIT all the time with just piles and piles of GR equipment.
Yeah, well, I missed out on that. So.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Yeah.
Most of it's in the landfill now, I'm sure.
Well, thanks, Steve. That was very interesting, and also it's amazing that there's three different types of knobs for the same series. So, that's an interesting evolution of manufacturing decisions. But I do like the old style one, if I must admit, with the arrow on the knob face as well as on the edge. That's pretty nice. Probably more expensive to make. Maybe they wanted to cheapen that part. But well, cool. Thanks.
Oh, and for Noah, I just finished my my Kinsey rye made by the Kinsey Distillery Company in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. It's old fashioned.
Oh, right.
Very nice. Jack Daniels introduced a rye a few years ago, and then they discontinued it and replaced it with a much more expensive bonded rye. But
Right.
so I just kind of went back to the good old fashioned black label stuff. But
Yeah.
Well, since we have you on mic there, Noah, what's going on?
Too much to discuss. But yet hardly anything as far as radio club type stuff. It's amazing when you move to a nice place with nice weather, you get a lot of visitors. So we've just been hosting visitor after visitor after visitor for about a month now. So I haven't done an awful lot. If I let's see if I can either do an Annie Oakley or try to figure out a. It's looking pretty green out here in the backyard right now, and while it's not radio related, I have a wonderful neighbor next door who is not exactly mechanically inclined, so he has like 3 riding lawnmowers and 2 trimmer push mowers that are almost always in states of disrepair. So as a result, I've been here now, boy, it's coming up on 3 years, 2.5 anyway, since I've been here, and I've never had to buy a lawnmower because the sort of rental agreement I have is that I get one of his spares that's broken and I fix it and I get to use it until he breaks one of his. And then I give him the one that I fixed and have been using, and I take the one that he's just broken and then I fix that one and then I use it until he breaks the next one, and then we kind of just keep them in a rotation. So
Nice.
Today's lawn mowing experience was the latest rehabilitation I had to do on one of his lawnmowers that had a couple of things that were design flaws and a couple of things that were tool abuse and a couple of things that were normal wear, but they all kind of combined to make an absolute mess of the machine. So it took a while to go through it all to get it all working properly. And today was the first test run of mowing the lawn after too long because of all the rain that we were having. So I've been doing things like that. Plus I've been insulating the ceiling of the garage where the old cars are out back so that I could see if I could make it a little bit cooler in the summer and a little bit warmer in the winter, just in case I choose to or have to fiddle with something out there on the old cars. So I haven't been doing much electronic related stuff, but it's been more mechanical and mundane kind of things. But we'll get back into the swing of things. Plus, with all the company having to take them out for showing them the different sites and different barbecue places and car shows and whatnot that have been going on to keep them occupied. So that's kind of what I've been up to, but nothing. I haven't touched my brand new fancy soldering gun MIG welder type thing since our last meeting where Tom gave us a demonstration of how to melt solder without fixing anything.
Yeah, while we're on that topic, Noah, I tried soldering with this thing and it absolutely didn't work at all. And I finally figured out that the solder that they give you with it is probably stainless steel.
Really?
You can't do anything with that stuff. So I don't know whether you can see this. I loaded in some Kester solder, which has, there we go, which has a flux built into the solder, the 5-core flux. And you've got to get the real small diameter, as you may be able to see there. But once you do that, by God, it does melt on the tip. And that's the goal of this thing. But it's pretty funny that they give you solder that you absolutely can't use. It heats up. If you get it hot enough, it melts and then it just drips straight down. If you drip it onto something metal, it drips off the metal.
I was wondering about that because the 2 spools that came with the unit didn't have very much solder on them. It was like, one layer on the spool. It wasn't a multi spinning around and around and around like you were going to get 100 feet or something. You probably got about 9 feet of this useless solder. So I was wondering about that. And then, the mechanism to feed the solder only takes a very thin type solder. So that was tester. Can you tell me that again?
Well, Ersin, ERSIN. It's solder with a core, and I don't know where you'd get it. Maybe Mauser, or you have a lot of Hamfests around you. You might find something at
Yep.
a show.
ERSIN. Okay.
That's the maybe the model of the solder or something. It means there's resin, there's flux in little
Yep.
5 little things. I don't know.
Right. Well, that makes sense if you're going to have like an all-in-one type one-handed soldering solution. You got to have everything all in the same place at the same time at the right heat for it to work. So
yeah, I was hoping that it would be good for my shaky hands, but you can see the end of the thing is certainly not very stable. That's why they invented wives, I think.
well, I still think you should bring it to the expert soldering demonstration.
Oh, yeah, that's it.
If for nothing else other than some laughs, but it'd be interesting to see a soldering expert and what he would have to say, or whether he'd be able to actually do anything with it at all.
Or
I'm sure he'd say, "Get rid of it."
It may be the first time we've seen somebody get kicked out of a training session. Get out of here.
Exactly.
Oh man, that's funny. That's funny. Will we see you at Springbrook Line, Tom?
I'm going to do my best. I've got MIT afterwards, and that's 2 nights sleeping out. That's a lot for the Tahoe, you know.
It's a combined vehicle and hotel.
Yeah, right. The Chevrolet Hotel.
Exactly. That's great. But
if I ever get one of those WLW Crosley things, I can't wait to like drop off the cabinet with Greg for refinishing. See if that could keep him busy for a while.
I was thinking of sending him out a couple of Enigma machines.
That's I mean that's acreage compared to some of the things that he works on.
Yeah, it's good. Greg, you have to charge by the square foot or acreage, flat fee.
Probably taller than we are. You ever see that picture of one of those?
Yes.
Where they got a woman standing next to it.
Yeah, but I saw that. Sorry.
And she says in the video, she actually makes the comment that she's wearing high heels at the time, and she's still shorter than the.
That's a big boy, but boy, is it nice, But I can imagine lifting that thing,
Chrome chassis and massive transformer.
There's a video
tons of tubes. It's great.
Yeah, you need a 40,
If you're gonna be a console guy, that has to be, that's right up there with that crazy Magnavox Imperial Grand Poobah, whatever it is that I've got in the living room.
Right. Or the Zeta Stratosphere. There's a full of what I call the holy grails of consoles.
Yep.
And, but boy, that's a beast,
There's a video where one guy, it's probably been shot in the last 10 years or so, and he's got both of them. He's got a Stratosphere and he's got a WLW.
Oh,
yes,
man. Wow.
Yes, that's the one where his wife stands next to with the high heels on, and it's still taller than she is.
And then he's got a little Crosley pup, a 1-tube one. He hands the guy, and she gets all crazy, thinking he's going to tip it over and drop the tube out of it. No.
It's funny.
So if I ever find one of those, you guys will be the first to know.
Oh, well, yeah, absolutely.
You may have to trade the 300 for it, though.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, no, he'll be asking for pennies to pay for it, eh?
Yeah.
I'm not sure which will use more energy.
True, quite true.
But
well, I had that big Scott that it didn't make the cut. The humongous was 23 tube Scott monstrosity that was all chrome chassis and beautiful radio, and it played. It had 2A3 outputs for the audio section. It was just amazing sound that came out of that thing. But I mean, you can't haul everything, so that went to a good home.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
I actually thought of you, Noah, at our meet on Sunday in Madison. There was one of those Stromberg Carlson corner consoles.
Oh, yeah. Yep.
With the acoustic labyrinth in the back.
Yep, exactly. There was a interesting Stromberg Carlson on a one of Jim Sargent's auction things down here in Texas. But boy, the auctions are pretty crazy. People seem to have if you happen to have the same interest in an item that two or three other people have, all of a sudden the price is just like totally out of line for, I haven't had much luck. I thought my tastes were oddball enough that, oh, it's an auction. Nobody else will bid on this thing except me. I'll get it for like $10, or whatever. But then all of a sudden it's like, there was one item, I can't remember what it was, but it was an interesting looking radio. I had never heard of it before. And like, it was, one of the bids I looked at was like $2,300. And it's like, I don't think so. Crazy.
Did they have that radio playing, Greg, or was it just sitting there looking at people?
It was just sitting there in a pile of junk. It wasn't restored or anything.
Does that labyrinth thing sound pretty good sometimes?
Oh yeah. There was, I just saw something recently. Somebody had quote unquote restored an acoustic labyrinth Stromberg Carlson, but the whole acoustic labyrinth was missing. And so he found the plans online from Patton something, and he made one out of cardboard and duct tape or something to put inside of his Stromberg Carlson.
He all kinds of duct tape holding it together.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, actually, sorry, go ahead, Noah.
I was just gonna say I don't even know if you can see that or not. It's dusk. Well, not dusk. It's getting closer to sunset, which means it's hunting time. So like, she'll come trotting onto the patio with like a snake or a lizard or something in her mouth to play with.
Something you to cook up for your dinner.
Or just something to be entertained with. It's amazing how they can, I guess it's from that whole, I don't know anything about cats, so this is a whole new experience for me, but apparently there's something about the muscle control and whatnot that they have, like when the mama kitten is able to pick up, our cat is able to pick up the kittens without hurting them and carry them around.
Yeah.
She's like able to do that with, her prey. I mean, whether it's a cricket or a snake or a lizard, she can pick it up and she can carry it to the patio and drop it down and have it still be alive and well and not maimed or broken or anything. And it surprises me how they can do that. And then it starts to hop or slide or slither depending on what it is to get away, and then she'll go pounce on it.
Yeah, torture time.
Well, pounce on it, but again, not without hurting it, and then gently picking it up and bringing it back again, and maybe do that 3 or 4 times, and then all of a sudden it's like, okay, I'm done, and then gloop, and she eats it. It's gone, and it's just kind of terrible when it goes.
How about armadillos? Do you have any of those, Noah?
Haven't seen any here yet. I've seen a few roadrunners, but I mean, I've seen a couple of rolled up dead armadillos on the side of the road because that's what happens to them. But I haven't seen any live ones. But I've seen a half a dozen live roadrunners.
Sure.
But she's definitely hot on the trail of something over here. But I'll find out eventually. It could be another. It's just like old radios. It's all about the hunt. Once you actually have it and bring it home, then it may or may not be interesting after a while. But hunting it down in the first place is all the excitement.
You can chow down your vintage radio.
Yeah, exactly. Sometimes it feels that way when you're working on it. It feels like you're chewing on glass as opposed to, having fun working on the silly things.
Yeah, indeed. But
like doing the crumbling wire on that Zenith you had on the tone control.
Yeah, that was one of those. No good deed goes unpunished. I had no idea. I never would have even let them know that I potentially could fix an old radio if I had known what was lurking behind the screen of that one.
Indeed.
Nasty.
But, hey, Greg, Avaisal, since we're sort of in about the right topic, how about if I share and you could talk about your little find?
Oh, yeah, this is kind of different. It's too bad Bob Bennett isn't with us tonight because I think he had one of these at one time.
Let's see here. Let me go share my screen. Sorry about that. Okay, you should be
Yeah,
sharing.
that's
Sure.
the world's smallest chairside radio.
Ooh.
Wow. Yeah, I have to blow it up.
The little Zenith 1937. I think it's a 5R236. Just a 5-tube AM band.
Yeah,
And the
that's
thing it's only about 21 inches long from the tip of that magazine rack to the other side, and it's about the same height and maybe 10 inches wide. And you
wow,
could
that
pick it
is
up and carry
small.
it under one arm. Yeah.
Is that is that a door on the front? Does it still have a record player in it, or what is that?
No, there's no room for a record player in that. That's just decoration on the side.
Oh, that's a
There's no,
decoration.
it's,
Okay. I'm
yeah,
watching this on my phone, so I couldn't really see.
Well, it's small enough you could play musical chairs with it. You
Yeah.
could go
yeah,
along with it, you know.
you
So
could.
you
Oh,
know,
that's a cutie.
yeah, that's cool.
That's how it looked when I brought it home. That was from Sunday in Madison at our meet. Saw that sitting
Wow.
there, and I couldn't pass it up.
Why isn't it letting me? That's strange. It doesn't. See if I can.
Well, you can add an RF amplifier to it.
Whoop.
Yeah. It's actually the same chassis they used in one of those little cubes or in that little child's it looks like a cathedral. But it's actually just a little table model.
Hmm.
But yeah, this is the one thing that's kind of unique about it. They normally didn't have a bank of push buttons like that. So I'm wondering if this might be either a factory prototype or a one-off production model, because it's not cobbled in there. It's actually wired with the same type of wires that the rest of the radio has. And somebody drilled some holes with the factory in the cabinet and mounted that on top, and it's perfectly centered like it belongs there.
Wow.
That's really neat.
Huh.
Yeah, it doesn't look like a Frankenstein, that's for sure. Whoop.
Yeah. It's one of those deals where you have to have the first push button pushed in for dial tuning,
Right.
Hmm.
Right.
and the other presets work. But that's the top of the chassis, just 5 tubes.
That's a baby.
That's a
Yeah.
baby, all right. Yeah. It was a breeze to recap it.
I bet.
Yeah.
That's pretty cool.
Oh, that's a great find.
Okay, now let me stop sharing for a moment because I have to go bring up the after. That's
Oh
the
yeah, I sent
before.
you a couple other pictures. Yeah, just sitting by the chair here.
I'm sorry.
I sent you a couple of other
Yeah,
pictures when it's
I
finished
do.
sitting by the chair. Yeah.
Yeah, let me go find that. Just bear with me for a moment. There we go. There we go. Let's see. I think this is right. Yeah. Okay. So let me reshare here. Okay. All right. Let's reshare.
Yeah, there it is. Just sitting next to a small wingback chair.
Look at that. Isn't that beautiful or what?
That is nice.
That is just terrifically done. You know, I love the size. I mean, I've never
It
seen a
doesn't have
chair
the
site
big.
that small.
Yeah, I kind of like the look of it even in the before pictures, but that's spectacular in the afters.
Yeah, I love the
Yeah, the problem with the before, and you couldn't really see it, is somebody just had it slathered on with brushed on that shellac stuff.
yeah.
Oh,
It's
okay.
really, yeah,
Yeah.
it
But
was just a mess to try and get it off.
It's kind of weird. It looks like if you have a big enough magazine, it'd block the speaker.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's kind of strange because the speaker's on that side instead of the other side.
Yeah.
There's the same kind of grill cloth on the other end too, but it's
Oh.
just for decoration.
But you know, that button set, it all looks, you know, nice and clean and tidy as if it really did belong to it.
Yeah. The only thing, it doesn't have the correct knobs. I've got some Zenith knobs coming for it, but
What a size
Hey,
dial.
what's the model number of that?
it's a 5R236.
Huh.
All right, let's see some more photos here.
Is it AM only, AM shortwave?
Yep, no, just AM, simple 5 tube, like a
Okay,
almost like a Philco transitone or something, just one band.
okay,
Still, that's okay.
interesting.
But if you look at that push button bank, it's perfectly centered.
Yeah,
I mean, it looks like it belongs. Looks like it belongs there.
Yeah, I mean, it certainly would be an interesting mystery to find out. But you know what? It looks great, and you're the only kid in the block with one.
Is it
I,
just
I guess so.
paralleled? Is it just paralleled across the main tuning condenser, or do you have to get the main tuning condenser out to use the push buttons?
No, it's hardwired onto the tuner and to one of the IF.
Oh,
Well, actually, it's an oscillator coil, I should say. There's a cardboard thing in top of it where I think the oscillator coil is in.
okay. So when you push a push button, it must somehow disconnect the dialed in frequency and go into the
Right.
oscillators. Okay.
Mhm. The only thing that's awkward with is you have to kind of reach up underneath it to set the preset. I haven't really done anything with that, but it's kind of buried up in there.
Uh, well, so much
yeah.
ergonomics.
You're supposed to do that before you reinstall it in that nice
Yeah, yeah,
refinished
and
cabinet.
that wasn't on the instruction sheet.
Yeah.
It's an interesting dial. It's got the frequencies on one half and wavelengths on the other. Huh?
Right.
I guess for just the symmetry.
The only other thing that might be different on this, I think it was supposed to have a brass um,
Oh.
dial pointer, and somebody
Mm,
put a later one on it, but I don't know. I like it. It's got the big Z on it. That's
Yeah.
kind of cool.
right,
Yeah.
right.
I think it's great. I think it's great. Beautiful job, Greg.
So that was my big find of the weekend.
Yeah, that was a good one. All right. I think that was it.
Yeah, I think that's all the pictures I had.
No, that's great. Terrific, Greg. Let's see here. Rob, what's going on?
Not too much. I started on another radio, but all I've done so far is pull it apart and clean about 6 inches of dust. Actually, a quarter inch of muck, and clean the chassis. I have to do some painting. There's the tuning bar, has a slider on it. Well, it's all trashed up, so I got to paint that. So not too much with the radio. But I think the last time we did this, I talked about my adventures with the RV and in Jerome. So if it's okay, I'll share. If you don't mind,
No,
a non-radio.
nope. That's quite all right.
There is a chunk of a map
Oh, yeah.
for Jerome, and I think it was around this double hairpin is when I lost it, so to speak. Oops.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah,
You
there
got
it
the,
is. Oh, there it is. Yeah, so that's the beginning of it.
Ooh.
I punched a hole, bent some metal, gouged that. That's actually quite of a trough through the center of the door, and that's the ending of it. And the insurance company, the local RV place gave me an estimate of $8,000.
Oh,
You've got to be
Oh,
kidding. So anyway, so I got out the Bondo, pretended I was back in high school with my $200 beater, and that's how it came out. Although the color's wrong, but it's not too bad,
Looks good.
yeah, nothing wrong with that.
no,
Yeah.
that looks pretty good. Hey, you got the rite of passage. You should have said I drove this on 89A. You should
Yeah,
have like a bumper
yeah,
sticker.
yeah.
I know
Well,
that road. It's not an easy one to drive, especially with a behemoth like that.
yeah. Well, that's where it got me. I was probably sweating buckets, and I think it's right around here in the center, that double hairpin, because there was oncoming traffic, and with that RV is 31 feet, so I have to pull way up
Oh,
to the other lane and swing around. And
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
anyways, other than that, working on that one radio and also gonna I found out something kind of interesting is I wanted to brew some alt beer. Yeah, I'm experimenting with the cold mash. So, anyways, it's all grain. So I putting together a recipe, and then I went on Northern Brewer and some mail order places to get the grains and the hops and the yeast. And it was coming out around $68 or so before shipping. So then just for the heck of it, I went to Jasper's in Nashua, complete with shipping, 45.47. So if you ever want to get brewing supplies, Jasper's is a good place for what it's worth.
Good to know. So,
Yeah, I mean, I was really surprised. But we'll see how this comes out. This is my third attempt at a cold mash. Uh, Normally, you take the grains and you mill them and you mash it at about 150 degrees. It's basically like making tea out of all the grain. But what it does at that higher temp is it pulls out the starches and the enzymes eat or work with the starches to turn them into fermentables. So what I'm trying to do is make low alcoholic beer. And so you cold mash. Brees is a grain company that kind of spearheaded this. And you only get about 25% of the fermentables, so 25% of the alcohol. First attempt was 1.7, second attempt was 2.2.
wow, that is low.
Yeah, well, this one I'm hoping to hit 2 around, but we'll see. So that's my other hobby. It's more complicated than you would want to believe. The deeper I get into it, the more my head hurts. So, anyways, so that's it.
Oh, that's cool. That's awesome. Well, let's see here. I think that just leaves. I was going to call on Pear, and then Pear, I think, dropped off. So sorry, Miss Pear. Sorry, Pear. No. Um, well, I have only one minor thing to show myself. Let me see here. Let me just get it's the, it's, it's very minor, but I'll share it anyway for what it's worth. All right, there's one last share. So I bought myself another scanner.
Oh, nice.
Yeah. So this one I happened to see. It was actually got on eBay. It was actually reasonably priced. It was actually in the original box, um, in very nice shape. All the manuals. It's I think when Bearcat but got bought by Uniden, which I think was because my first scanner was from 1982, and it was still Bearcat. And I think between 82 and 85, which this one's from 85, became Uniden Bearcat. But you know what? It's 40 years old, more than meets the spec, and it works terrifically. And right now, it's picking up an airband. This is the air traffic frequency because that runs from about roughly around 116 through about 135 or so um, in that range. And you know what? It's fun. I pick up a lot of traffic. Works like a champ. It looks almost new. It only has a little bend, a very small like pinch on the antenna. This particular one also picks up the early cell phone frequencies if they were unencrypted, and if you they tell you in the owner's manual, please don't listen over, eavesdrop on your friends' mobile calls. But who's going to pay attention to that? That was just a gentle warning, but not clearly unenforceable. But in today's world, of course, it's meaningless. But it's had the uh, extra capability of being able to scan all those frequencies. So otherwise, a cool little device. It works great. It has all that feel. It's funny. the buttons have that classic 70s, 80s tactile feel. I don't know what it is, but you can sort of, you can imagine you're hitting it and they have that certain feel. So, yeah, this thing is from that era. And it's a terrific little device. So fun toy, you know.
I don't know who's that member that has the world's largest collection of UHF tuners to add on to old
Ah,
television sets.
Oh,
that's
yeah.
that's Mark Nelson.
Mark
Right.
Nelson. I see a pattern developing here where someday
Mm.
you're. This is the 102nd scanner that I bought because
Yeah.
it was only one model number away or serial number away from
Yeah.
the 99th one that I bought last month.
Well, I'm gonna try and behave myself because in that regard. I actually wouldn't, except that it's just not really worth the trouble. But if I were lucky enough to find I love the idea of like one of the crystal sets, but it's just that you'd have to find enough frequencies that are worth listening to that tune, that are catch the right frequency to plug in. I'd love to have one of those Regency's ones my dad had, but it's almost pointless. All you do is you just like to see the scanning of the bulbs, the incandescent bulbs is about all it would be doing, and I guess you want to see that, I guess it kind of looks like, it's kind of cool.
Yep.
Whereas this one just the display, the child just twiddles. It go just rapidly through it, so it's not doing the cool, no scanning of lights or anything cool like that. It's just sort of quickly spinning around and going through all the channels. But it's fun. I look and say, wow, can you believe this is 40 years old? But the box is in pretty good shape. It like says all the manuals, and it's like, hey, why not?
Before those, John, there were things called monitor radios, which were
Hmm.
tunable VHF receivers. And I had those in New York City. I lived in the city and I loved to follow the fires. And there were some amazing fires in New York City. And there'd be a real big one, and I'd wake up the whole family and put them in the car at 2 o'clock in the morning. Tell them we're off to see Super Pumper. Did I tell you this story?
Yeah, I heard a
Yeah.
Super Pump.
Okay, sorry
That's
about
cool. No, that's quite right. We love the story,
Yeah.
but on the flip side, it's like, your son and your family can say, "Hey, we saw a super pumper because Dad made it."
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and you talk about listening in on the cell phone conversations and whatnot on this thing. I can't remember where I saw it recently, but there was someone, I guess now with the internet or whatnot, doxing is a big thing, right? That's like a thing you do to people, or, you dox them and publish their information that they don't want published or whatnot. And the comment was, once upon a time, there were these big, fat 2 and 3 inch thick books that had everybody's name and address and
Yeah.
telephone number. And they used to
Yep.
be shipped all over the country for free by the telephone company. And it's like, so what's the big deal about this doxing thing?
And the other problem is lots and lots of people have wireless telephone systems now. You buy a phone, you almost
Yeah.
always get a second or a third phone with it.
Yeah.
And you can listen to those. They're right in the 49 meg frequency range. So you can listen to your neighbors constantly if you want. It's amazing. And nobody realizes they're completely open to be monitored really easily.
So, John,
yeah,
check this out.
let's see what you got.
A Radio Shack 2B VHF high, VHF low monitor receiver.
Nice. Oh, look at that. See, look at that. You pull it right out. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, you see where it says Super Pumper right on the dial?
That's right, made specifically for Tom Pereira. That's awesome. That's pretty cool.
It's got 2 tuning knobs, one for VHF high and one for VHF low.
What's the range it'll do?
30 to 50 megahertz and 152 to 174.
Okay, so it doesn't catch the aircraft ones. Okay.
And it's got 4 crystal positions, 2 for each band.
Got it. That's pretty cool. That looks like, is that what, do you think from the late 60s, early 70s, maybe mid 70s?
Yeah, pre-digital, right? So
Oh yeah. Well, you see, I got a little lazy. Admittedly, I didn't want to fuss with trying to find crystals. It would take me forever. I'd say, okay, I'm going to get a crystal list set. As tempting as it would be, because I would like one, and maybe I will eventually find one, but I have to find the crystals. So, if I'm lucky, maybe I will go to some Brookline show and someone's got one and say, hey, I got all these crystals, and they also will cover the air bands, and I'll be like, yay.
Yeah,
well, those
I suggest
programmable.
check the free table.
Yeah, you never, well, like I said, as I told you guys, I've all the years I've been going to the show, I finally took something off the free table. It's still, it's still waiting to be dealt with its 8-track player. I just haven't had any time because I've been so busy with other things, including not my priority, which I will eventually show you guys pictures, but I'm trying to not go, I'll find some time. I'm working on this one they scale Mercedes-Benz that is taking an enormous amount of time because it's very slow to build. It's a lot of parts. There's 900 parts on there and lots of things yeah. And um, I have the chassis reasonably built up. There's 6 stages. Okay. And there's 104 steps total. And those steps are multi sub steps in there. And I'm on step 20, 21. And the chassis is pretty well built up. There's a lot of parts and a lot of tiny screws. And good thing I have, jeweler precision, screwdrivers and things like that. But it does torture my tools because boy, I'll tell you, you have to get hardened metal because if you don't have hardened metal, they just chew up. You must just throw your screwdrivers away. Um, but it's coming out, and I will show my most recent ones. I'm putting in uh, uh, fuel lines, transmission oil lines, and next will be more additional fuel lines to the engine that I have to do. So I've got plenty ahead just to get the basic chassis done. But I will show some pictures. But and I still have to think of like, oh, I have to build 6 rims, all the wire wheels I have to wire myself. They give me all the wires. I said, boy, that'll be a job. But I'm trying to get it done by the end of July because I'm supposed to see my cousin then. So I want to see if I can deliver it to him. So but I also want to screw it up because it's really his, and I want to screw it up. So no pressure, but but anyway, but
So John, one thing about the crystals,
yeah,
nowadays they make these things called programmable oscillators.
yeah.
You can go to a distributor like DigiKey or Mouser and say, I want one of these oscillators. Please program it to 154 megahertz for me, please.
Really?
Yeah.
Custom. In other words, are they compatible with like you just plug them into like I don't know, like a Regency or something? Or
no, but I bet you somebody makes an adapter board that'll let you do that.
oh, now you got me thinking there, Steve, because I really would like to get a Regency like my dad had, which was like an 8 channel or 10 channel. It wasn't like super huge, but all I need is about 8 or 10. It's only about 8 or 10 frequencies like from Logan or from wherever that are probably worth listening to because I'm not sure if it has enough pickup to get the small regional airports because Carl gave me the frequencies of some of the regional airports, which I haven't actually had time to actually plug in and do, which is on my list to see if I catch anything, but it may just be out of range. Just if I can find a close enough airport. But
That depends on what you're listening to. If you listen on 121.5, that's the emergency frequency.
yeah,
And I always had a receiver that would start a tape recorder when anybody transmitted on 121.5, and you could see how people got into serious problems. It's interesting, John, they're now selling a little tiny radio, basically a ham radio walkie-talkie that covers all of those frequencies. And the mind-boggling thing is that it's made in China. It's called a Baofeng, and they're selling them for as little as $20.
wow.
And the same radio made by Kenwood or ICOM or Yaesu does the same thing, and that's $200 to $300. And so they're just completely wiping out the market. But they're wonderful radios. I finally broke down. I said, I'm never going to do this, but I broke down, tried one, and it's hotter than my Yaesu and Kenwood handheld radios, meaning I can receive over further distance.
Not to interrupt, but I told you guys it was like hunting time.
Yeah, something got away though.
Good kitty.
The kitty got herself a little snake that she likes to play with here at nighttime.
Oh, cool. That's
down
neat.
there. The only problem is like, when she's playing with it, she kind of grabs it and tosses it in the air. So if she's playing with it near you, you could be minding your own business, sitting on the patio, and suddenly a snake lands in your lap because she doesn't have very good aim.
Right. Or maybe that is intended. You never know. Depends which. Depends how much.
I don't even know what they're called, but I think they're some form of like little tiny garter snake or something. I don't know if you can see that poor little thing. It's like they kind of play possum after a while.
Oh, right.
If I stay completely still, the cat will be bored and leave me alone, and then I can slither away. But sometimes she decides to take matters into her own hands and go over there and stimulate it a little bit. But anyway, just happened to catch that. I told you it was happening because the sun is starting to go down, and that's usually when the toys come out to play, and that's when she finds them. She's an apex predator. She's a killer.
Yeah.
If you're ever on our patio, don't take a nap because you never know
what will land on you. That's funny. That's awesome. Well, boys, it's just before the top of the hour by a few minutes. So it looks like it was just the right amount of content. So we have for the next meeting, geez, we should have pictures either from Kutztown, or I hopefully will get the pictures cleaned up in time for the meeting from Spring Brookline, but I'll do my best. But but there's always a fallback. Greg, I know we've got stuff from the WARC, so we got no problem. We'll have plenty of content. So at any rate,
yeah, I can always take you to Germany too, to the big ham fest.
Yeah, always take us away to Frankfurt. So we got lots of material coming up. Are you going again this year, Tom?
Yeah, can't miss it. I found an enigma last year, and it's like a magnet.
Well, make sure you take lots of photos, lots of content.
Yeah.
But
so, do any of you know anything about car batteries, or lithium car batteries? Okay, I'm just having the worst possible problem. In 1 minute, I'll tell you the story. My grandson has a camper with 600 amp hour lithium batteries. That's the battery set that runs all of his whatever stuff. And every single one of those batteries is open. So it won't take a charge. Oh. Yeah, and if you read it with an ohm meter, it's infinite ohms between the terminals. And if you put any kind of charge on it of any kind, obviously, since it's infinite ohms, it's not going to take a charge. So I'm researching these things, and apparently every lithium battery has a BMS, Bravo Mike Sierra, BMS, which is a battery monitoring system. And the purpose of that is to make sure that the lithium cells all sort of are cooperating with each other. And if one of the cells gets out of sync with another cell, the BMS disconnects them all and says, hey, this battery is no longer safe. Don't use it. And you can't charge it. Ho, ho, ho. So you're left with this battery. And these things, lithium batteries, $200 a piece or at least.
Yeah, I was going to say the BMS system is the buy another battery sales mechanism.
Buy more systems.
Buy more batteries. Yeah.
So what do you do? What do you do when you get a situation like this? You Google it, right? And some guy is always out there fixing things. And one guy says, okay, you got to take the top off the battery. And this is not a simple job. You take a hair dryer and you go all the way around the top of the battery until it's melting. And you get it hot enough, and then you can lift the top off the battery because the plastic or whatever it is has melted. You have these two terminals connected down into the battery by heavy wires, and they connect to this BMS. You're faced with this BMS thing, which is a huge circuit board with all kinds of heavy current SCRs or something, switching power and all. And it's a nightmare. And there's no way, apparently, the all the Google people say, "Oh yeah, just reset the BMS," and you try and figure out how to reset a BMS, and you can't. Even the people who seem to know what they're doing say, "Well, try this, and if it doesn't work, try that, and if it doesn't work, try something else." So I guess the whole purpose of this little diatribe is to warn you that if you get tempted to replace the lead acid, good old trusty lead acid batteries in your cars or RVs or whatever, give it a second thought. I now have, and by the way, the battery takes a perfect charge if you go on the input side of the BMS, no problem. If you connect directly to the battery, but the BMS just disconnects it from the battery terminal. Oh.
Wow.
You just need to make an analog BMS with vacuum tube technology, you know?
There you go.
Yeah, that's it.
Or you're gonna have to reohm it.
Right.
Yeah, reohm it. Right.
Just be careful reohming lithium, because once it bursts into flames, it burns for a while.
Right,
Yeah.
but I'll tell you though, it would make for a spectacular video.
Oh yeah.
Throw it on the burn
Yeah,
pile
you
and
thought
cuts down.
you had funny marks on the wall in your basement before.
You better get the
We're gonna-
fire suppression system, by the way, is the other subtopic.
Yes.
It's spectacular.
Never reohm a lithium BMS system without a fire suppression system installed by Tom Pereira.
So I expect a presentation on this any week now, Tom.
It's coming. I can see there's something in the works there. If I can ever get
It's getting warm
definitive.
enough out there now. You could do it outdoors, so you don't.
No,
put
it's
your
almost
house
snowing here. It's awful.
No, really? Oh my goodness!
No,
No,
but
you
still
should throw it
cold.
on the pile. It cuts down.
Yeah, there you go.
Ooh, that would be spectacular.
You can see that from the ISS.
Yeah.
Well, maybe I'll put them on the free table. Ho ho ho.
Yeah, those weigh a bit. That'll stress out the free table.
Yeah, I'll bring it home.
I've
I'll pick it up if I can plug it in at your house. That's one of those things.
Oh man, that's funny.
Those lithium batteries have been known to catch fire in motorcycles. I've seen people
Yes,
replace them.
electric bicycles, all kinds of things.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I know it.
They're
So I'm
too
doing
bad.
all the work outside.
Yeah,
Yeah.
but well, that was that. We ended on a fun ending there, Tom.
Yep.
Yeah.
Brutal.
But well, let's see here. Then I guess the next time we'll be some of you guys are going to see face to face in a couple of weeks, because then the next meeting will be just after our spring Brookline and certainly after Cutsdown. So lots to talk about. Looking forward to seeing you guys if you can make it. Sorry for the guys who are from afar. Sorry, they'll miss seeing you guys.
We're looking forward to the pictures of all the stuff we didn't drag home.
Yes,
Yeah.
indeed. More pictures. There'll be a video. And a video, hopefully the
More scanners.
Yeah.
hopefully not, but but now that Steve's got me wondering, I have to do some research about, geez, can how could it get a little more programmability in my crystal set? That would be kind of fun. That would be my last piece. I would like to have a Regency just to sort of cap it off. So
I
Sort
do
of,
have
sort
one
of the-
sitting on the shelf, John.
was that?
I do have one non-working though, but sitting on the shelf.
I'll have to see. I have to do some research, see what kind of flexibility I can get with it. But
I'm not sure it does AM.
no, I don't need that. I just want the air bands.
Well, the air bands are AM.
No, it's true. Based on the
I'm saying it may only have an FM demodulator.
but But
I'll have to check that out.
all right.
One of the ultimate uh, ways of listening is to use one of these software controlled radios, and for about $19, you can get a dongle that plugs into your computer and allows you to receive any frequency from DC to the end of the sky there. But the interesting thing is they all include a waterfall display. Waterfall display is the latest way of looking at the radio spectrum. It used to be you had a horizontal axis of frequency and a vertical axis of signal strength. And nowadays, the horizontal axis is still frequency, but you have the signals constantly moving down in kind of a waterfall. And you can see if one signal comes on, it'll show a big blip and go down the screen. Kind of fun to look at.
Yep. Yep. A time axis kind of thing.
Yeah.
Cool. All right.
All right.
Well, guys, that was a terrific meeting. Thanks for all the great stories and great photos and everything else you guys have shared. So enjoy your 2 weeks. Enjoy the improving weather, and hopefully see you guys some of you a week and a half. If not, I'll see you guys same time, same place, same bat channel in 2 weeks.
Great.
Thanks, John.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, John.
All
Thanks.
right.
All right. Thanks, guys.